Good evening. It is Election Day in Canada. The leaders and the candidates have spoken. Now Canadians get a final chance to have their voices heard. Here in Nova Scotia, an estimated 1 in 4 eligible voters cast ballots in advance polls. And Elections Canada says things have gone smoothly so far on Election Day. The CBC's Andrew Lamb spoke with voters in Halifax earlier today.
On Election Day in Halifax, many voters had a relatively smooth experience casting a ballot. How was the experience with the voting today?
That was actually very smooth, very simple. I was in there for maybe a minute.
Amazing. So fast. I feel like I may have just beaten the lunch rush and I maybe anticipated it'll get a little bit busier, but really good, very organized.
It was a little bumpy at first. I had a little difficulty getting in the door, but the workers here were wonderful. They were able to help me get around to another area where I could get in easily.
Some voters say it's a consequential election for Canada in light of tensions with the U.S.
I think it's very important. Because I think this has been one of the more important elections that we've had for a long time. So being able to vote today, I think, was really important, and I'm glad I got to.
It was pretty important.
Why is that?
I don't like what's happening south of our border and wanted someone who would, doesn't align with who's there.
Big switch on the party that I usually vote for to what I think would be best for everyone.
Obviously, Donald Trump is the big issue. But, I'd like to see the country come together. That my biggest hope is that we come together as a country.
The Elections Canada media representative for the Atlantic region says things seem to be going smoothly when it comes to voting in Nova Scotia.
4 times as many polling locations as there was in advance polls, and a lot more polling stations within those locations as well. So it's all going very well.
Ongur says there was an issue Monday morning in Cape Breton, Canso, Antigonish, where some polling stations were late reporting they were open, but she says that's been resolved. More than 200,000 Nova Scotians have already voted in the advance polls. That's around a 30% increase from last federal election. Andrew Lamb, CBC News, Halifax.
We have reporters all across the province tonight in various federal ridings to give us a sense how the night might shape up. We begin in Digby in the riding of Acadie Annapolis, and that's where we find the CBC's Taryn Grant. Taryn, this is a riding Conservatives.
You're absolutely right, Amy. This is a seat the Conservatives are hoping to hang on to with their candidate, Chris D'Entremont. He's going to be hosting a watch party here at a seafood restaurant in Digby in just a few hours. Digby is just a stone's throw away from St. Mary's Bay, which is where the lobster fishing dispute erupted about 5 years ago. You'll remember that the issue there is that Mi'kmaq fishermen have been harvesting lobster outside of the commercial season, asserting a treaty right. Many commercial fishermen want Ottawa to be limiting that treaty right to within the same season that they adhere to. This was an election issue back in 2021, and it remains unresolved today. D'Entremont, as the incumbent, has several things working in his favor, one being that the Conservative Party has promised to handle the fisheries issue differently. He's also a very popular MP in his own right. He's been doing this job for 6 years, and before that, he was a progressive Conservative member of our provincial legislature for about 16 years. But none of this is stopping the Liberals from trying to flip this seat. They nominated a former lobster fisherman as their candidate. Ronnie LeBlanc is also a one-term provincial Liberal MLA until he lost his seat last fall. And the party even brought out former Prime Minister Jean Chrétien to stump for LeBlanc a couple of weeks ago. And now, if LeBlanc can unseat D'Entremont, it will be a big upset for the Conservative Party. Amy.
All right, one to watch for sure. Thank you, Taryn. That's Taryn Grant reporting for us tonight in the riding of Acadie Annapolis. Well, next we head to New Glasgow to watch the race for Central Nova.
Clear.
That is the riding formerly held by Liberal Sean Fraser. Shayna Luck is standing by. So, Shayna, how are things shaping up there tonight?
Well, Amy, as you mentioned, Sean Fraser is trying to hold this seat for the Liberals. Fraser was first elected here in 2015, and he was re-elected in 2 subsequent elections. Now, Fraser's an interesting race to watch because he said in the winter that he was actually not going to to run again. He said that he was going to step down from politics, spend more time with his family, but very shortly before the election was called, he said he would change his mind. He said that Mark Carney had given him a personal phone call, convinced him to jump back into the race. Now, Fraser's main competitor is seen to be Conservative Bryson Jenkins. Jenkins is a newcomer to politics. He has a background in the trades. He was a welder, then a welding inspector. Then he moved in 2021 to real estate, and he's taken a leave of absence from his job in order to run for the Conservatives. Now, Jenkins, despite being a newcomer, he has been supported by some high-profile Conservatives. Peter and Elmer MacKay, both former federal politicians from this area, have appeared with Jenkins on the campaign trail. And last week, Pierre Poilievre held a rally at the Trenton Arena. And that was, of course, to drum up support, Conservative support in Nova Scotia, but also it was a moment to spotlight Jenkins as the candidate for this area. Now, all candidates, or rather all parties, are fielding candidates in this riding, but this riding does have Conservative ties, Conservative roots. Brian Mulrooney held Central Nova for a time. Of course, that was at a time when the boundaries were slightly different, but we've certainly seen engagement, political engagement from people in this area. Just to give you an example, 16,000 people, more than 16,000 people, in fact, have voted in the advance polls over the Easter weekend in this riding, and that is just about 25% of the registered voters in this riding, Amy.
All right, thank you, Shayna. That's Shayna Luck in New Glasgow. And we've got Tom Murphy in Halifax. So, Tom, this riding has no incumbent. What are each of the parties expecting tonight?
Well, yeah, no incumbent because the Liberal, Andy Fillmore, left to have a successful run for mayor of Halifax, as you'll well recall. That is giving the NDP some hope in this riding, and Lisa Roberts is carrying the flag for them again this time, having just lost by about 1,000 votes to Andy Fillmore the last time around. And the NDP counting heavily on the fact that there are strong NDP roots in this riding. This is the riding, after all, of Alexa McDonough, former provincial and federal leader of the NDP, and more recently Leslie as well, MP Megan Leslie as well. So there's this hope that there's those deep-seated NDP roots will come out tonight. We shall see. The Conservatives are really championing this anti-Liberal cause and hoping for the best, that message will get through to them. Mark Boudreau is a communications specialist for the Conservatives, and he is saying the anything but Liberal vote here. But the big question will be, as we have seen across this country where the polls have been suggesting that the NDP vote has been weakening, where is that vote going? Will it go Liberal? Will it go Conservative? And that's obviously a key factor and something to be watching for in the dynamics of this evening. This is considered to be a riding where the NDP feel like they have a pretty good chance, though. And the ground game is so good for the NDP here as well in this city, as we know from history. Big issues, obviously, those NDP issues of housing and healthcare and affordability. They seem to take a bit of a backseat to the Trump tariff storyline that dominated this federal election campaign. And the question is, how much will that hurt the NDP tonight? How much can the Conservatives or the Liberals capitalize on that? We know that this is considered to be a fight that a lot of people in this country will be looking for to see whether there will be some indication as to how the NDP might do in other parts of the country. And so lots to look for in tonight. Could the NDP win it again? History has said that they could. The Liberals and Conservatives will have lots to say about that, but ultimately the voters will have the final say this evening, Amy.
That is right. We'll find out later tonight. Thank you, Tom. That's Tom Murphy in the riding of Halifax. Well, in Cape Breton, we have Kyle Moore standing by in the riding of Sydney Glace Bay. So, Kyle, this is a newly formed riding which initially had two high-profile Liberals vying to be the candidate. So what are folks saying there tonight?
Well, Amy, I'm here at Mike Kellaway's headquarters, and as you can see, it is quiet behind me right now. His supporters and volunteers hoping the energy will pick up as the night moves on. Now, Kellaway was first elected in 2019 as the MP for Cape Breton-Canso, but as you mentioned, he is the Liberal candidate for the new riding of Sydney Glace Bay, one of two new ridings here on the island, the other being Cape Breton-Canso, Antigonish. Now, Liberal candidate Jaime Batiste, Mike Kellaway, both wanted to be the candidate for this riding. In the end, it was the party that picked Kellaway to be the Liberal candidate here in Sydney Glace Bay. Now, I know signs don't vote, but there are a lot of Anna Manley signs throughout the riding. She is the Conservative candidate for Sydney Glace Bay, a lawyer by profession. Now, some pollsters are predicting that this riding could stay Liberal tonight. More than 19,000 people have voted in the advanced polling. On the other side of the island, Cape Breton, Canso, Antigonish, Jaime Batiste is the Liberal candidate there. He's hoping to go back to Ottawa, but he's up against a very popular Conservative candidate in Alan McMaster. McMaster, he was elected 4 times at the provincial level as the MLA, a former cabinet minister there. Now, pollsters are predicting that riding could be a bit of a toss-up tonight. More than 16,000 people have voted in the advanced polling there. There are 5 names on the ballot in Cape Breton, Canso, Antigonish, 8 names on the ballot here in the riding of Sydney Glace Bay, but many are predicting that it could be a two-way race in both ridings between the Liberals and the Conservatives, but of course we'll have to wait and see how that plays out when the results come in a little bit later on this evening. Amy.
That's for sure. Thank you, Kyle. Kyle will be watching the results tonight in the riding of Sydney Glace Bay. So, of course, the weather can determine the turnout as well. Some folks had sunshine, some folks not so much.
Yeah, and where Kyle was reporting, of course, across Cape Breton, it was a damp day with rain off and on. Antigonish, Guysborough, that rain held on into the afternoon. Pictou, even back towards the metro area this morning, a few showers rolling through central areas, but things cleared out pretty nicely. Cape Breton the last to clear through this evening, and that'll set the stage for a really nice Tuesday across the province. Post-election day, and as you can see, temperatures are going to be warmest in the north, where we're going to be looking at highs in the 16, 17, 18, maybe 19 out towards the Annapolis Valley. Now, the winds will be from the south on Tuesday, and so I do expect temperatures inland to be in that 13, 14 range, but if you're close to the Atlantic coastline, temperatures will range from about 8 to 10 or 12 degrees. The peninsula, right around 12 degrees, but I think just inland will likely get into the teens. So yeah, really relative to your proximity to the coast. There goes that weekend soggy system, and boy was it. And then you can see for Tuesday, we're into that warm sector. There's that cold front coming through. We're going to be watching on Wednesday, mild ahead of that with a few showers in the morning. Temperatures on Wednesday will be even milder. We'll talk about that coming up with your full forecast.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
A fast-track program to bring international nurses to Nova Scotia has been paused while keeping the door open to those from the United States. The Nova Scotia College of Nursing received more than 30,000 applications for licenses to be processed in 30 days. But of those who were approved, nearly a third didn't show up. Douglas Bungay, the CEO and registrar, says they put the program on hold to catch up with the immense backlog and take time to reevaluate how to make it more effective in the future. He says in the meantime, they're expediting applications from the United States that are flagged by Nova Scotia employers.
Even while the expedited process is still on pause, if you want to come, if you have employment, if you have a job offer, we can make it so that you can get licensed as long as you qualify. And we're not taking everybody. You have to qualify.
Nova Scotia Health says since January, 15 registered nurses and 3 nurse practitioners have been hired from the U.S. It says momentum is growing on its recruitment campaigns, and it expects that number to increase. Nova Scotia Power and its parent company Emera are dealing with a cybersecurity incident. Someone gained access to Emera's Canadian network, and some business servers were compromised. The company says IT teams isolated those servers and the incident was reported to police. It says power transmission is not affected by this, but their online payment system and customer service phone lines remain offline. The governing body for swim clubs is proposing a new aquatic facility for the Annapolis Valley to fill the void of Acadia University's pool closing down. The school said earlier this year it will be shutting down its pool in June due to mounting maintenance costs. Since the announcement, Swim Nova Scotia has been presenting a potential new pool to local governments in that area. Swim Nova Scotia says they would like to see a 50-meter, 8-lane pool built that would cost between $14 and $24 million. Saturday was an historic day for women's soccer in Halifax. Despite the damp weather, soccer fans waited outside the Wanderers grounds to see the Halifax Tides' first game. The Tides are part of the Northern Super League, Canada's first professional women's soccer league. Many young female fans say the league gives them something to look forward to in the future.
I think it's really exciting because it makes my dreams of one day playing professionally to seem possible.
It's really inspiring to be able to watch these girls just play soccer at such a high level, and I feel like it's something that makes me want to work 10 times harder.
The Tides lost the game to Calgary 4-1. Their next game is against Vancouver Rise on May 5th. The Natural History Museum's resident celebrity, Gus the Gopher Tortoise, may have some new competition for the hearts of Haligonians. In September, a wood turtle named Root moved to the museum. Now, Root is missing a foot, so staff at the museum decided to give him a leg up. The CBC's Francis Willick has that story.
This is Root. No one knows exactly how he came to be missing his right front foot. But thanks to a mobility aid made of Lego, it's not slowing this turtle down.
We didn't want to make a skateboard or make anything that would just have him zooming too naturally fast, but he's clearly going a little faster than the average wood turtle, but he seems happy to do so. He's getting lots of great exercise.
When he came to the Natural History Museum in September, it was clear Root needed a bit of help.
When he walks, because one leg is essentially shorter than the other one, we found that he was kind of clunking his shell down.
Root's bottom shell was getting damaged from dragging on the floor, so staff decided to create something that would lift him up a bit.
I thought that Lego would be a great option. At the time, we had a Lego exhibit at the museum. We have that just about every winter, and we thought that'd be so great because we know it's non-toxic. We know that we can replace the parts as we need, and should his shell change or grow, we can change the shape and size of that. It's very modular.
Biesterfeld attached a Lego platform and Lego wheels to a small dog harness, and Root's mobility aid was born.
Ready to go.
Root quickly became accustomed to the device, and with the help of his wheels, he enjoys exploring different areas of the museum.
We may have him for a while, so we want to make sure he's comfortable.
Root is about 20 years old. Wood turtles are a species at risk in Nova Scotia and can live for up to 80 years. Staff have not allowed Root to get up close and personal with the museum's beloved gopher turtle, Gus. That's because they might not get along and turtles can pass diseases on to each other. But with Root's fancy wheels, it's possible the museum could have another celebrity on its hands. Francis Willick, CBC News, Halifax.
Go, Root, go. Beautiful night over Halifax Harbor. Ryan is up next with the full weather forecast. We're back after the break. And we're back to talk weather, and it sounds like things are warming up a bit.
Yeah, it's going to be more widespread warmth for tomorrow, no doubt about that. But if you're along the Atlantic coastline, like the South Shore in particular, temperatures are going to take a hit there because it's all about the wind direction this time of year. Today was a northerly wind, the sunshine came out, and the South Shore up and towards the Lunenburg area included just an absolutely dynamite day.
Oh, very nice there already.
15 degrees right now in downtown Lunenburg. I mean, terrific.
Picture perfect, isn't it?
Picture perfect. Maybe a bit more greenery on those trees and we'll be good to go. But honestly, I really noticed things budding on the trees over the last little bit. And the grass.
We've had lots of rain too,
yeah,
right?
That's right. And the grass, I'm expecting with the sunshine the next couple of days, the grass will really green up. Have a look at those high temperatures today. Did get to 16 in Lunenburg, 15 in Halifax, 17 at Western Head. And how about Baccaro? 20 degrees. That was our hot spot today. Far cry from Cape Breton, 7 at Port Hawkesbury and Canso, Sydney at 8, and that's where temperatures are cool right now as well. It's just 3 in Sydney. Still 20 at Baccaro, and you can see it's that northerly wind that is just ushering in that onshore flow for those northeastern areas, and of course the clouds and the precipitation, which has been falling throughout the day across Cape Breton. Pretty breezy out there right now. We're still gusting 40, even 50 kilometers per hour down through the South Shore. So that is a factor, but those winds are going to continue to subside. And this is the band of rain that started this morning here over Central and has been migrating east throughout the day and still looking at looks like Guysborough in particular and across Richmond County into Cape Breton County. This is where we're hanging on to those showers as well. The clouds starting to clear through Antigonish County and up towards Port Hood and Inverness County. That low will continue to depart, and we are looking at this area of high pressure to move in. A lot of sunshine on tap for Tuesday. Make sure you've got the sunglasses ready to go. You're going to need them. This is the system that we're going to be watching that will reinforce the mild temperatures, which are going to be building in for Tuesday and into Wednesday. And then we've got a cold front which will pass through Wednesday afternoon. But it looks like the timing should work out pretty nicely to see very mild temperatures on Wednesday. 15 in Calgary and Edmonton. Those are some of the hotter spots across the west, and Toronto is at 18, Quebec City at 21. And this is what we're looking at as we move into tonight. Temperatures are going to be pretty chilly considering where the highs were. We're going to be at the freezing mark, and low-lying areas of the north and east are going to drop into the -2 to -4 range. And so yes, indeed, that system will depart. Model here saying, yeah, cold enough for maybe a few flakes as that system does depart. Wet flakes, if they do indeed mix down, and we can see there those cool temperatures to start in the east, 4 or 5 degrees along coastal areas of the Tri-County area. And note tomorrow, those temperatures popping in the north, onshore winds in the south, single-digit highs right along the coastline. There's no doubt about that. And you can see for those temperatures, we're going to be anywhere from 10 to 12 degrees across Cape Breton, but I think Richmond County will be closer to 8 or 9 degrees in those onshore winds. Down towards central areas, 10 degrees right along the coastline for Sheet Harbor, even the metro area. If you're standing right along the water at Peggy's Cove tomorrow, probably going to feel more like 6 to 8 degrees. Inland around the peninsula near 12, inland 14, 15 to 16 up towards Enfield and then Truro. And I think the valley is going to be our hot spot tomorrow, 18, 19 degrees. Bridgewater near 14 and Yarmouth near right around 11. Inland temps could punch a little bit above that. There's the front that's going to come through. Wednesday morning, we're going to be looking at showers under mainly cloudy skies, but it's going to be really mild. Those showers will clear. Still mild before the clear out, and then as the clear out does happen, temperatures are going to take a hit a little bit into the afternoon, but still expecting that even by mid to late afternoon, we're going to be into the teens, but peaking near 20, likely late morning, early afternoon as those skies start to clear. You can see, though, very, very mild indeed. That system will depart. We've got this area of high pressure off to our south, which will be anchored in and bringing us a nice day on Thursday. Temperatures back in the low double digits, near seasonal for this time of year. Showers building in on Friday, and yeah, I know. I know.
The timing,
The timing is everything. We're really not threading the needle very well with these weekends lately, but still time for things to change, Amy.
All right. Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed,
Yeah.
right? All right. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
Coming up, with just a few hours until the polls close in Nova Scotia, a political scientist tells us what to watch for as the results start rolling in. After 36 days of door knocking, speeches, and rallies, today is federal election day. And for a look at the campaign and what might happen tonight, I'm joined by CBU political scientist Tom Urbaniak. So when the results for Nova Scotia start rolling in, what are you going to be watching for?
There will be a few ridings that I'll be looking at carefully, Amy. One of them is South Shore St. Margaret's. If we see that one tilting Liberal, that's going to be a signal to me that the Liberals are probably going to have a good night. Another riding I'll be looking at is Cape Breton, Canso, Antigonish. If that one starts tilting Conservative when the early results come in, that's going to be a signal to me that the Conservatives have had a good ground game, that they've been able to capitalize on candidate factors and local issues, and that their organization and their base might come through for them in some ridings that were otherwise leaning Liberal. So those would be some early signals to watch for sure.
Well, how much can we read into the results from Atlantic Canada overall?
Well, the Atlantic Canada results will not be the national results writ large. We know, of course, that the Conservatives will dominate Saskatchewan and Alberta, although the Liberals are trying to pick up a few seats to at least have a foothold there. Ontario will be interesting to watch. The Liberals are favored in Ontario, but the races seem to have been tightening a little bit in the last several days in that province. So particularly crucial will be the ridings in the so-called 905 zone. So the Golden Horseshoe, the inner and outer suburbs of Toronto. And if those start going Conservative, then that will signal to me that the Conservatives have a shot to win this thing, even though the polls have been fairly consistently favoring the Liberals until now.
Well, what are you expecting in terms of seat count by the end of the night? I know that's kind of a big question.
Yeah, I don't want to take any voters for granted, and I don't want to take any votes for granted. But if the Liberals don't end up with a plurality of seats, given the patterns that we've been studying in recent days and recent weeks, that would be a surprise. That would be an upset if the Conservatives place first in seat count. I don't see any scenario where the Conservatives win a majority government just based on all of the data sets that we have looked at. But the big question probably will come down to, will it be a Liberal minority or a Liberal majority? And some of those key ridings that I mentioned around Toronto and the suburbs will be crucial. And the BC ridings, there are a lot of toss-up ridings in British Columbia. So there could be some drama there as we watch the results come in.
Well, if the Conservatives do lose, what is the future for Pierre Poilievre and for the Conservative Party itself?
If the Conservatives lose, there will be massive soul searching within that party and probably fracturing within the party. Even during the election campaign, we saw some key Conservative strategists, Corey Teneycke, Doug Ford's campaign manager, was criticizing the Conservative campaign during the campaign itself. So those concerns will be amplified. Pierre Poilievre softened his tone a little bit, but he largely ran a campaign playing to the base and hoping that he could animate the base plus maybe a few other people and put himself over the top that way. So that calculation, if he loses, will prove to have not been successful. So definitely his leadership will be called into question. But it's hard to imagine another leader stepping in and quickly unifying all of the various factions and people who are discontented with the Liberals under one great big tent. So I think there will be a lot of fracturing, division, and soul searching if the Conservatives don't pull off a plurality of seats tonight.
Well, if they do pull off those seats and the Liberals lose, what would be the fate of Mark Carney politically?
Well, if the Liberals don't win a plurality of seats, it doesn't automatically follow in our Constitution that they would give up the government. So in our Constitution, in our Constitutional Convention, the sitting government does have the right to meet the House of Commons, although if the situation is unclear, then Constitutional Convention would require that to happen quickly. So there is, like, if we want to, if this were a political science class and we were looking at hypothetical scenarios, I mean, there is a hypothetical scenario where the Liberals place second, but think that they could still retain the government with the support of others in the House of Commons. But if Mark Carney does lose decisively or doesn't try to meet the House of Commons to test its confidence, then he will have been the shortest serving prime minister in Canada's history. Sir Charles Tupper from Nova Scotia was prime minister in 1896 from the beginning of May of 1896 until early July of 1896. So Mark Carney would then have the record as the shortest serving prime minister. Would he stay as leader of the Liberal Party? I I don't really see a scenario where Mark Carney announces tonight, even if he underperforms expectations, that he's leaving as leader of the Liberal Party, because Liberal fortunes went from being disastrous just a few months ago to being very much in contention and even favored to win at the moment at which we are speaking.
Now, the polls have not been kind to the NDP or Jagmeet Singh. Where did they go after the election?
Well, even if the NDP doesn't retain official party status, the NDP will not disappear. The NDP has been in very difficult situations before. Recall the 1993 election where they fell short of official party status. So they will try to rebuild the party, but it would not be with Jagmeet Singh as leader. I predict that he will step down, even if he does hold on to his riding in British Columbia.
All right, well, it is going to be an interesting night, and we appreciate your insight on all of this. Thanks for that.
My pleasure, Amy. Thank you.
Coming up, Vancouver's Filipino community is in mourning after 11 people were killed and dozens more injured at a street festival on Saturday. And in an Ontario courtroom, a new jury is set in the sexual assault trial of 5 former World Junior hockey players. Welcome back. It is another difficult day for Vancouver's Filipino community. More victims have been identified, killed by a driver who ran down people during a Filipino street festival on Saturday. Kira Salim was a teacher and counselor in New Westminster, 34 years old, originally from Brazil. Other victims included a husband, wife, and 5-year-old daughter. Their 16-year-old son had not attended the event. Health officials say 17 people are still in hospital, some in critical condition. A 30-year-old suspect is in custody. Kai G. Adam Lowe is charged with 8 counts of second-degree murder. Police say more charges could be forthcoming. No motive has been determined, but the suspect has a history of mental health-related interactions with first responders. Officials in Vancouver will hold a press conference in about an hour to provide an update. The sexual assault trial of 5 former World Junior hockey players got underway in London, Ontario. It stems from an alleged incident in the city after a Hockey Canada event in 2018. The CBC's Katie Nicholson has more. A quick warning, viewers may find some parts of the story disturbing.
Once young hockey stars with burgeoning NHL careers, now on trial for sexual assault. Michael McLeod, Cal Foote, Dylan Dubé, Alex Formanton, and Carter Hart have all pleaded not guilty. The Crown says this case is all about consent, what it is and what it is not. It begins at a London bar where the then 20-year-old woman whose identity is protected by a publication ban met Michael McLeod. He took her to his hotel room and they had sex, but then the Crown says the atmosphere changed. The Crown says he texted teammates, "Who wants to be in a 3-way quick? 209, Mikey." McLeod is facing a second charge. The Crown says it has evidence he assisted and encouraged his teammates to engage sexually with the woman, knowing she hadn't consented. The Crown says there will be videos from that night and messages between the players in the aftermath, making sure their accounts matched up. This case broke into public view in 2022 when it was revealed Hockey Canada settled a $3.5 million lawsuit with the woman. There were parliamentary hearings, news of other payouts over the years, and leadership changes at Hockey Canada. All part of a larger reckoning of hockey culture, says this researcher.
Stories around violence, and particularly allegations of sexual violence, really counteract the idea of what it means to be Canadian. That story we've told ourselves, and that story about what it means to be a Canadian hockey player, you know, these well-dressed, polite young men.
This trial, however, keenly focused on 5 players and what may or may not have happened that night 7 years ago. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, London, Ontario.
Less than 2 hours now until polls start closing and the counting begins. In a federal election that focused on relations with the U.S. and the future direction of the country. The CBC's Evan Dyer has the latest on Election Day.
Yeah, so how was your voting experience?
Great, it was super easy. Walked in, did it within 2 minutes, and walked right out.
Voting appeared to go smoothly in most locations, with voters reporting a quick turnaround.
I didn't know what to expect today, so I was pleasantly surprised.
Does this feel to you like a consequential election for Canada?
Absolutely. Just because of, obviously Donald Trump is the big issue.
And Trump inserted himself into Canada's election again this morning, posting a call for Canadians to elect the man most likely to turn Canada into the 51st state. No more artificially drawn line from many years ago. Yesterday, his Secretary of State doubled down.
He was told by the previous Prime Minister that Canada could not survive without unfair trade with the United States. At which point he asked, well, if you can't survive as a nation without treating us unfairly in trade, then you should become a state.
Conservative Pierre Poilievre responded, President Trump, stay out of our election. The only people who'll decide the future of Canada are Canadians at the ballot box. New Democrat Jagmeet Singh wrote, he doesn't choose our future, we do.
Obviously, the attitude or relationship with the U.S., kind of Donald Trump, what the anticipated leader, how they would react to that.
The tariffs and our sovereignty as a nation. Those are the big issues for us.
Those are big issues.
Huge issues, yes.
How did voting this time compare to before, other federal elections for you?
It seems to mean more today.
But Trump wasn't top of mind for everyone.
The younger generation's very suffering very much. I see it in the area. I live in the area, and there's a lot of people my age still living with their parents. And it's just become a pipe's dream of the Canadian dream.
My main concern is the crime, and I really would like to see something done about that because it just makes you more fearful.
Many voters who spoke to CBC News said this election felt more consequential than others. For some, it was the threats from the U.S. For others, there were other concerns, but most said they felt a more than normal responsibility to vote. Evan Dyer, CBC News, Ottawa.
A record 7.3 million people voted in advance polling this year, and we will be watching to see if that trend continues on today, Election Day. But not everyone is choosing to vote. The CBC's Georgie Smythe looks at why some people are staying away from the polls.
Millions of Canadians voted early in numbers never seen before. But some Canadians don't intend to vote at all, like 20-year-old Chris Grelier.
No one really calls my name. It's not that I think voting is... you shouldn't vote. It's just, I feel like if I'm voting, I want to really get behind it. And if there's no one I really want to get behind, then it's just throwing my vote in there. Like, it doesn't feel very meaningful to me.
In the last federal election, about 38% of Canadians didn't vote. It's a number that's been trending higher in recent years. Research from Elections Canada shows many potential voters are just not interested in politics, which is why they don't cast a ballot.
Excuse me, sir.
Lathan Gannam Stewart is trying to get those people excited to decide the country's next leaders. He's part of a non-partisan group collecting pledges from voters to cast a ballot on Election Day.
We're not going to tell you who to vote for, but we'd really like you to vote. Young people don't vote enough. We're trying to change that.
So cuties, get out there and vote this April. And be sure to follow and check out apathyisboring.ca.
Social media messaging targeting young people is helping, as groups say party platforms and promises can feel irrelevant and inaccessible to people who have never voted before.
We have young people who tell us all the time, you know, my vote doesn't matter. Maybe they live in a riding that hasn't changed representation in their entire lifetime.
But rising social isolation affects voter turnout too, says this educator.
Long-term trends of people being less and less involved in civic organizations, religious institutions, unions, just going out for a running club. And when we feel closer to our community, we're much more likely to understand that voting is a way to strengthen community.
Most Canadians can agree this is a high-stakes election, but will it mean historic voter turnout? We'll have to wait a few more days to know for sure. Georgie Smythe, CBC News, Vancouver.
And when the results start coming in later, you may be asking yourself, how does CBC News make the election call? Well, it all comes down to our decision desk, who make the call in each and every riding across the country. Chief Correspondent Adrian Arsenault spoke to the decision desk's senior producer, Meg Banks, about how they make those calls.
Okay, so you may be wondering, how does CBC project an election? Who does that? What does that look like? Behold Meg Banks. Meg Banks is the boss of us when it comes to elections, in charge of CBC's decision desk. This is also your 44th election.
That's right.
So Meg knows a thing or two about a thing or two. I want to ask you about the decision desk. What does it actually mean? What are you doing?
So we are watching the results as they come in throughout the course of the night. We watch the vote share, we watch the seat change, we watch a whole whackload of metrics, and when we are ready to make a call, we will make a projection. We do two sets of projections. There's a team of journalists who make a projection in all 343 ridings, and then there's myself and a couple of my colleagues who will watch the whole national picture, and we'll make a projection about the government when the time is right.
But then there's the big call, the government call.
That's right.
How is that distinct?
We watch big sweeping trends. We watch all the numbers as they come in across the country. We are watching the vote share, the seat change. Is a party gaining enough seats to get to a majority government, or are they losing enough seats that the second place party can come up behind them? We're watching key regions. We're watching the margins. If the party that's out in first is winning the ridings in which they're winning by huge margins, then it gives us surety in making our call. So we watch that, and if a whole bunch of those metrics and sort of parameters are met for us, then we will feel comfortable enough making a call. As long as the outstanding vote, what's left to count, the ridings that are left to report, couldn't get the second place over the first place.
What is for you the thing that happens that you think people at home possibly don't realize?
There's no guesswork here. There's no going out on a limb. We are all about being right. We are not about being first. We take it super seriously, and we make sure that we've got it before we tell Canada what's going on.
And for you, the best moment of any election for all 44 that you've done?
The minute the first result comes in.
Why?
Oh, it's so exciting. That is the minute that it's real. That's the moment that it's happening. It's democracy in action. And we are so lucky to be able to be a part of it.
And there's a surprise every election.
Oh,
of
every
one
election.
form or another, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's something we never saw coming in every single election.
Okay. Meg Banks, thanks. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Double A.
And if you haven't cast your ballot yet, there is still time. As long as you're in line at your designated polling station at 8:30 p.m. Atlantic time, you can vote. To find your polling station, go to the Elections Canada website and type in your postal code. Bring your voter information card if you have it. If you didn't receive a voter information card in the mail, bring a piece of ID with your current address on it, or a piece of ID and a document with your current address on it, such as a utility bill, bank statement, or residential lease. Canada's main stock index saw a modest uplift as the federal election campaign came to an end, while U.S. markets were mixed ahead of earnings reports from tech heavyweights. Here's a look at the numbers as we head to commercial break. I don't know about you, Ryan, but I can smell that election night pizza, folks behind us.
Yeah, so just a little peek behind the curtain. Pizza
Election
in the
night.
newsroom on election night is a given. Of course, folks working late into the night here, both behind the scenes and in front of the camera. And
And no pizza for us.
No, not yet. We can smell it. It's here. Hopefully there'll still be a piece by the time we wrap up here in a couple of minutes. Let's have a look at our viewer picture of the day. And we're going to zoom in on the very southern part of Antigonish County. And you can see here, this is, I believe that's Lochaber.
Lochaber, I think. Is it?
Lochaber. That sounds better.
I'm going to go with that. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, maybe I loaded this in wrong. We're going to try one more time. Hold on. And there it is.
There it is. No matter how you pronounce it, it's absolutely stunning.
Absolutely. Heidi, thank you so much for sharing this. Ryan's picks at cbc.ca. That looks like a painting.
It does. And just the mirror image of it, too.
Fantastic. Gorgeous. Thanks to Heidi for that. Ryan's picks, as I said, and a lot of great ones coming in over the weekend. Have a look at this. This is Tuesday. Really, really nice, especially for northern areas. Those were the kind of the cooler temps today, especially in the northeast. Temps will pop nicely there on Tuesday. Cape Breton, 10 to 12 degrees, maybe a little bit warmer in the Bredora Lake area. Halifax and along the Atlantic coastline is going to be really variable. Single digits if you're standing along the coast and your feet are in the water, but it will be warmer into the teens inland. And as we look at Wednesday, widespread temperatures 16 to 20 degrees, and it does look like we will see some showers. Yes, as a frontal boundary starts to work its way in, we'll quickly time it out. There's the system coming in. The shift to southerly winds for Tuesday. We'll see some showers for Tuesday night, lingering into Wednesday morning. The skies will clear, the temperatures will remain mild, and then fall mid to late afternoon, especially in northern areas, but still a really, really nice day. Thursday looks good as well. Increasing clouds Friday with some showers, and the weekend looking damp at the moment.
Okay. Well, there's hope.
Yeah.
Well, before we go tonight, a reminder of our federal election coverage starting in just 30 minutes. CBC News has you covered. Chief Political Correspondent Rosemary Barton will be hosting. Adrian Arsenault, Ian Hannah-Mansing, David Cochran, and Catherine Cullen will join her.
They'll, of course, have the latest riding updates as polls close across the country, starting at 7 p.m. Atlantic, wherever you watch CBC News.
Don't want to miss that. No. That is it for us tonight. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Good night.